Alright, this problem is from section 2.4, number 4. It says use factoring to solve the quadratic equation. Check by substitution or by using a graphing utility and identifying x-intercepts. And the problem is stated as 4x squared equals 25x plus 56. Now, the solutions are written there already. However, we're going to actually do the problem and see if we come up with the same solution that they do. So first thing I'll do is rewrite the problem. 4x squared equals 25x plus 56. The thing we'd like to do next is get everything on the side with the positive x squared. The positive x squared is this 4x squared term here, and it's on the left side, so that means we're going to be subtracting 25x from both sides and also subtracting 56 from both sides. So subtract 25x, subtract 56, and that will give us this equation: 4x squared minus 25x minus 56 equals 0. Now, the thing that makes this a little bit more difficult than a usual factoring problem is that the coefficient is not 1, and these terms are not divisible by this leading coefficient here. So what we're going to do is use a method called factoring by grouping. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is identify, we have our A, which is 4, our B, which is negative 25, and our C, which is negative 26. So what we're going to do is multiply A by C. So that means I'm going to do 4 times negative 56. Now 4 times negative 56 is negative 224. Now the second step is going to be to list all the factors of negative 224. Actually, we need to find two factors of negative 224 that add up to negative 25. Now, the only way you can multiply two numbers and get a negative is if one of them is negative and one of them is positive. And the only way when you add up those numbers they're going to add up to a negative is if the bigger number is negative. So we're going to start off with something like this, negative 224. We know that negative 224 times positive 1 is negative 224, but that definitely does not add up to negative 25. So we're going to go down the rest of the factors. Let's try negative 112 and 2. Now that doesn't work either because it doesn't add up to negative 25. Alright, so next we're going to try negative 56 and 4, which is what we multiplied together in the first place. However, that still does not add up to negative 25. So we have to keep going. Let's do negative 28 and 8. Alright, unfortunately this does not work either, so we're going to keep going once again. Negative 14 and 16, that doesn't work. This time I'm going to do negative 7 and 32. And notice all I'm doing, because it's even, is just dividing by 2 here and multiplying by 2 on the right here. Now, negative 7 times positive 32 is negative 224, but remember that we said when we add them together, they have to add up to this middle number, and in order for you to get a negative, the bigger number has to be negative. So this 32 has to be negative, whereas the 7 is going to be positive. Now, negative 32 and positive 7 is negative 25. So these are our two factors. The next thing we're going to do, and I'll write it up here, is rewrite this equation. So 4x squared, we're going to replace the negative 25x with a 7, and we're going to put an x after that, and then we're going to write plus negative 32x, and finally this minus 56 equals 0. And the next thing we're going to do is place parentheses around these two terms and parentheses around these two terms. So what we need to do now is find the greatest common factor of the two terms inside the parentheses. So the greatest common factor of 4x squared and 7x is simply x. 4x squared divided by x is 4x, plus 7x divided by x is just 7. All right, now here, negative 32x and negative 56, we also need to, once again, find the greatest common factor of negative 32x and negative 56. If this number here is negative, then our greatest common factor also has to have a negative. And the greatest common factor, because there's no x term here, is going to be an 8. All right, now negative 32x divided by negative 8 is a positive 4x. Negative 56 divided by negative 8 is a positive 7. It is important that once you do this step, you get the same thing in both sets of parentheses, because if you don't, you won't be able to continue to the next step. So our next step, being that we got the same thing in both sets of parentheses, is to write this as a multiplication of two binomials. So we're going to write two sets of parentheses. In one set of parentheses, we're going to write the thing that repeats, which is the 4x plus 7. In the other set of parentheses, we're going to write these two outside terms, so x minus 8. Now we're going to use the 0-point principal property. So we're going to write x minus 8 equals 0, and 4x plus 7 equals 0. And if x minus 8 equals 0, then x equals 8. We subtract 7 from both sides here, and we get 4x equals negative 7. We divide both sides by 4, and we get x equals negative 7 over 4. So those are our two answers. And as you can see, that is what we got as far as the solution that we saw for the solution set. All right, next thing is to use a graphing utility in order to verify these answers, and we're going to do it very simply. Going to take our calculator here. All right, and we're going to just go to a regular screen. So our equation is 4x squared minus 25x minus 56 equals 0. Therefore, what that means is if we plug in 8 or negative 7/4 into this equation for x, we should get 0. So let's do that. So I'm going to write 4, then I'm going to put a parentheses, 8, close the parentheses, square that, minus 25, and in parentheses 8, what that means is multiplication, and minus 56, and if we get 0, that means our answer is correct, and we do get 0, so the 8 works out. Let's do the same thing with the negative 7 over 4. The reason why I use the parentheses here is because we definitely have to use parentheses when typing in these answers. So let's do negative 7 divided by 4, and we're going to square that. All right, minus 25 parentheses times negative 7 divided by 4, close that, minus 56, and once again we get 0, so our two solutions are correct, 8 and negative 4.